Hey, welcome. We are going to get into day 3. Now, I'm not sure time-wise if this is good for you. I understand supper and busy stuff. I got the little Maya beside me. She seems to be comfortable on my blanket. So yeah, we're going to talk about day 3. Day 3 of the 21-day mindset reset is all about radical responsibility. So if you haven't watched day 1 or day 2, you can go back. They're further on this page. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 21 videos in 21 days-ish. Meaning they might not all be consecutive. I actually think I'll take Sundays off, but you will get 21 videos of mindset reset. Hey, awesome! So we're gonna prepare supper together. I actually just have my ham in the oven right now, so if it beeps, it's ready, and I'll have to run and get it. But and then we're just eating leftovers. So yeah, nice. Welcome, welcome. So yeah, today is all about mindset reset, and the big one for me in any mindset transformation is really going deep and into our own accountability of things. So today is all about radical responsibility. And I'm always drinking water when I'm on here, sometimes wine. We're not Wednesday yet, eh? See, I'm still off work. We're Tuesday, right? So maybe tomorrow I'll have wine Wednesday. Okay, so let's just get right into it because I don't know who's on. I can't always see who's on when I do these. I guess it depends on pages. Sometimes on my private page I can see more people, and sometimes on my public page I don't see much. But if you can hear me, give me thumbs up. If the sound is good, if it's not choppy because of internet stuff. Still the same old happening here sometimes. Let's just make sure my volume's up. I think my volume's all the way up. Okay, cool. You can hear me? You can hear me, eh, Amanda? Okay, and so that today I'm not so flighty. I did take notes. Again, yesterday's video was pretty cool. Again, it goes against, it just goes to show how I practice the anti-perfection. So after I watched the video, even as I was doing the video, I was like, in my head, I kept saying, I should just delete this video. I should just delete this video. But then I was like, a whole whack of you guys were on, and I was like, that's kind of really going against me being authentic and the whole anti-perfection. Like, this is the perfect proof that I have that sometimes you can't win them all, and it was a good time. So okay, you hear me? Okay, sweet. So again, if you like anything that I'm sharing, share it with somebody that you think would want to hear it. Today, radical responsibility. So we're going to get into the tough stuff. When it comes to doing any mindset transformation in our lives, we need to be aware that we are responsible for us, right? How we choose to show up. So I actually got the book A Course in Miracles. It's pretty sweet. A Course in Miracles is a huge book. So I got Made Easy, the audiobook. Fabulous. I recommend it to anybody. And basically, A Course in Miracles. They talk a lot about how you only can be responsible for yourself. So it goes a lot of things that I've already read. Byron Katie, Brene Brown, all these authors are amazing. I'm actually reading a new book right now, you can't see, on my table. Judgment Detox by Gabrielle Bernstein. Like, I'm already like, yeah, it's all about judgment. So yeah, if you are looking at any mindset transformation, it comes down to how you choose to show up, and it's about being responsible to the role you played in the story. Because anytime that you have something happen to you or there's a bad guy, then that automatically makes you a victim by default. Now, I'm going to go with when we are in that position of being a victim, no matter how justified, it actually leaves us helpless. And if we are helpless, that means we're not in our power. So how do we get back up, right? So A Course in Miracles, they were talking about how when something happens to you in your life, and I mean, Tony Robbins speaks a lot about this too. Life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, even though sometimes when you're going through it, like last year was a really heavy year for a lot of us. We're just like in the trenches, and it's like, oh my goodness, can it please just stop? but it happened for a reason. These things always have a purpose. So in the Course in Miracles, he just basically, I loved his analogy of saying, it's just like we're all in a play. We're all in a play, the bigger, grander scheme of life, and everybody's an actor. Everybody's an actor. So if you think of any movie, there's always a bad guy. And like some of the most brilliant actors, they can play a good guy and a bad guy. It's pretty cool. They get right into the character. But if you go for a coffee with them later or whatever, they are good people. Like, you know, it was just a role they were playing in that story, in that movie, in that episode, whatever. So I liked his analogy of like, when stuff is happening, it's happening. You're in the trenches. You're in the messy. It's going down. It is more to your advantage. It's more advantageous for you to think, okay, and probably on the moment you won't be able to, because we all get emotionally hijacked. But if you can go back and reflect and say like, okay, this happened, you know, and try to see us all as characters playing roles. So when we talk about radical responsibility, it really comes down to seeing what role did you play in this story? What role did the other person play? So it's not about, you know, blaming and shaming. That's something that our culture likes to do. Some of us are raised with it. I know that I'm really good at shaming. I've learned from Brene Brown books that shaming is not a good tool to use ever. And I'm working on that. So, but these are all things, messages that we learn, things are passed on, whatever. But if you can acknowledge that you use these as a tool and that they're not really serving you, then we can change it. So when you realize that, what role did you play in this situation? And again, it's not about letting somebody off the hook. It's not about saying you condone the behavior. It's just about calling things as they are, straight up. You try to be as objective as you can, and I know it's really hard because it's your life and you're like living in it, but you try to see it as objectively as you can. And then if you can place people as though they were wearing masks and they just showed up. And the reason they showed up is because they're bringing you a lesson. Now, I say this often, we are all students and we are all teachers of life. So there's always an opportunity for learning, always, always. We have many, many opportunities sometimes in a day just to learn different things about ourselves, about other people, about the world we live in. So it's about being open-minded to these things. Now, again, when you're living the feels, you live the feels. It's about honoring the emotions that you feel. So if we talk about things like betrayal, rejection, all those hard stuffs, breakups, you know, those are hard, heavy feels, okay? Those are hard, heavy subjects. And yes, you would be totally justified. And if I can pause this right here before going further and explaining that, in our society, when it comes to traumas, there is really two kinds of traumas. There's the capital T traumas, where you're totally justified. You share your story and anybody will back you. They will be like, oh my God, you are well in your right to be upset. Oh my gosh, poor you. Like you are well in your right in that trauma. Then there's the lowercase traumas, the lowercase t traumas. And those are little traumas that are little to everybody else, but they still like in your head, you're like, why doesn't anybody get me? And we all go through this. You know, it could be like being dissed by a friend, ghosted by somebody that you loved and respected. You know, a misunderstanding. Like these are all little lowercase t traumas that over time they fester, and if we don't deal with them, like what we don't heal, we ultimately pass on, and they'll just keep festering. So, and it'll just poison any relationship. So it's about being honest with that, and not that one trauma is better than the next or more warranted than the next. All the feels are valid. Now, feelings are never logical. They're not always logical, but they are invitations. They are your invitation to actually stop and listen. What is going on right now? And go deep. Like do that introspective, that messy work that I like to call. So it's your invitation to say like, okay. And if you can stop and think, what role am I playing right now? Who am I right now? You know, and it's totally warranted if you need to work through the feels because you need to. Don't push them away. So process, let the feelings happen. If you want to get angry. There's nothing wrong with getting angry. Actually, sometimes that helps us level up to understand that the reason we are angry is because we didn't set clear intentional boundaries. So there was lines that were crossed. Now you set your fence up, girl. Like, it's done. So anger can be a positive when used in that light. Oh, excuse me. I'm always burping when I do lives. I'm not sure if there's questions. So basically that's what he said, is to consider everybody's playing a role in your story. Everybody's playing a role. You're also playing a role in your story. So now if we start to go deep, and instead of using blame and shame, right? Because that's just what we like to do. We acknowledge that. We acknowledge that feeling is happening right now. Just like Gabrielle Bernstein talks about, it's impossible to live a life without judgment because we are human beings. And this is how we discern what is safe and what is not. So you just need to be discerning with what is happening inside you and understand that you're going to process it. And from here on out, you don't have to necessarily be an emotional hijack and keep going. So you can take the time to be like, okay, I'm just going to feel the feels, I'm going to process it, and then I can go back. And then when you go back, this gives you options. So your options are, depending, like in any situation, your options are this. You can be a victim, you can stay down, or you can be a warrior. Now, it doesn't mean a warrior and you're going to fight back and all. No, you're just going to fight the good fight. And the good fight is for you. It's for your own mental, emotional health. It has nothing to do with anybody else. Anytime you have to prove somebody else wrong, it's going against your purpose. It totally is. You should never have to justify your feelings to anybody else. You do that for you. That's it. You validate your own feelings. You don't need somebody else to do it. It's learning to switch that, to flip that narrative, to switch it around. So yeah, your options. So what do you want to do? Where are you in that storyline right now? Like, what responsibility do you have in that storyline? And I could go into massive details about things that I know that I've experienced or, that I've seen. And I mean, we're all living this. We've all either experienced disappointment, hurt, rejection. We've all done that. And at the root of everything that happens in our life, there's this awesome quote that I really love going back to, and it's we choose the scars we think we deserve. So if you are perpetually being a victim, that's because somewhere deep down you have a core belief that you are not worthy as a person. And this is an invitation for you to actually go deeper and say, like, whoa, is this the narrative that I want to live, or do I want to change things? You can do anything, and that's the thing. Nobody can actually do anything to you without your permission. So when I'm saying, and of course I'm not talking about violence and things like that, I'm talking about just normal everyday relationships. Nobody can take your power away from you. Nobody. You give it away. And the way you give it away is when you start to react to what is happening. You get that emotional hijack and you're like, rah! And that's because you're in a victim stance and you want to fight back. The minute that you can see that you can't give your power away, that is your power, and the way you take your power back is to see that, is to understand, whoa, this is not who I am right now. This is not what I want to do right now. Practice forgiveness. I mean, I have an email going out tomorrow. It's going to be pretty intimate about something that I just lived recently. Not details, obviously, but I'm showing my human side. Like, yeah, live in the feels. So you cannot give your power away willingly. Nobody takes your power away. It just, you have to understand that. And once you understand that, and once you understand that blaming and shaming and all that only creates separateness, and at our core level, as humans all want the same basic things. We want to be loved, we want to be accepted, we want to be heard, be seen, the same core values. So once you can understand that, I'm going to teach you a few strategies that I use to help me put me back in my power and to strip those thoughts that are happening, because this is the thing. A lot of times we get focused on what happened, and it's not really the thing that happened. It's the emotional charge we're putting towards it. Okay? So that is the thing. It's the emotional charge. So I'm going to teach you how to take your power back and strip those thoughts of their power to take it back, to flip it, to make it more in your power, to stand fully in your being. So it's never too late to start anew. If you ever feel like you're justified in your being, right away I'm going to tell you you're not done processing the feels. So if you're stuck in the justification of why you are feeling what you're feeling right now, you are blocked and you need to work through that. And the way to work through that is I'm going to teach you right now. To take your power back, I like to use Byron Katie's inquiry method. It's fabulous. Basically, you're going to take a sheet of paper and you are going to write all the nasty stuff about this story. All of it. Everything that happened to you, just write it. Write it uncensored, okay? So go be as mean as you need to be. Get those feels out on paper. Then you're going to ask yourself, is this really true? Is this true? If the answer is yes, okay. If the answer is no, still okay. Ask question number 2, which is it the absolute truth? Because see, this is the thing. There are so many different perceptions to the truth that my truth is not necessarily your truth, but neither one is right or wrong. It's just different, right? So now you're going to ask yourself, is what you wrote the absolute truth based on whatever it is you're going through? I think it just shut off. Is this still on, people? Because everything looks frozen. Oh, gosh. Give me a thumbs up if it's still on. I'm not sure. Oh, goodness. Okay, I'm going to keep going. And if it's not on, well, I'm sorry. Then the next is you're going to ask yourself, how do I feel when I react to this thought? Like, do you like being emotionally hijacked? I don't know anybody who does, okay? Automatically, you probably feel guilt. Thank you. Thank you. Automatically, you'll probably feel guilt, like the email that I'm going to send out tomorrow. It's not very, like, I'm sharing it because it's as authentic and as raw as I can get. It's my truth, and my truth is what I see, and it's what it is. So you might feel guilty for how you reacted, and that is okay because we are human, we're not perfect. But when we apply radical responsibility, you have a chance to switch it around quickly. And the more you practice it, the better emotional resilience you build, and the better you get just overall with your grit and with your honesty. It's about being brave. See? Brave. It's about being brave enough to step into your story no matter how messy, and you're like, we're going to sit in the feels. It is okay. So ask yourself, how do I feel when I react to this thought? And then the last question you ask yourself is, who would I be without this thought? So oftentimes in relationships, and I mean, Byron Katie always says our best teachers are those that we live with. They are our best teachers because they're bringing out, we're all mirror images of each other, and they bring out the stuff that we don't like within ourselves. That is why we get annoyed, because we don't like that stuff, right? So they're our best teachers, and they're the ones that shine the light on what needs to be worked on. It's not them that has to change, and that's the thing. When you walk into your story, you have the opportunity, A, to take your power back, and B, to rewrite it. It's not about expecting the other person. You're not attached to outcomes, okay? You should never be attached to outcomes, expecting an apology, expecting somebody to repent for what they've done to you. Never. You're not doing this for that. Okay, because at the end of the day, when you're doing radical responsibility, you're focusing on what you can do, how you show up. It's not about how the other person shows up. You show up, you speak your truth, you let the pieces fall as they need to. It's not on you to try to control the situation. And this is the thing that a lot of times women, because I know, I used to be I'm a recovering people pleaser, and for years I was a doormat because I was afraid to speak my truth. I was afraid to show up fully, and instead it was better for me to just be complacent, easygoing, let things go, it's fine. But at the end of the day, I'm setting up that tone. I set the standard. So if I've modeled that it's okay for you to walk all over me, then that's on me, right? So this is what radical responsibility is. It's first of all seeing what role are you playing right now in your relationships. And if it's not serving you, if it is stealing from you, then this is your opportunity to walk in do the messy work, figuring out why it is. And a lot of the times it's rooted in unworthiness. It's rooted in the fact that we don't think we're allowed to take up space in our lives. It's rooted in the fact that a lot of the times as girls we're brought up with like, good girls, you know, don't cause trouble. Good girls are polite. Good girls don't talk back. You know, I'm not saying these are narratives that I was necessarily brought up with, but I know that from other women that I've coached, this is a common theme. We're not allowed to speak our truth. We're not allowed to get angry. So what narratives are you holding? What beliefs are holding you back? And are they still true for you? Because if they're stealing from you, then you need to let them go. It's not about the other person. Sure, they showed up, stuff happened, stuff went down, but that's just it. It's stuff. It's stuff. It's your lesson. This is your life lesson. And the thing is, I truly believe that if we don't do the messy work to, I don't know, I like to say level up, your next level of your life. You have to level up, mature, grow, figure out, do the work. You're going to keep getting these opportunities presented to you with another person, another person, another person. And always running away, you still have your same core beliefs. You still have those inside. So it's about stopping and saying, whoa, do I want to keep replaying this loop, or am I done? Because I don't know. For me, I know I'm done. So you're gonna hear about that email tomorrow. But yeah, so you ask yourself, is it true? Is it the absolute truth? How would I react to this thought? And then after, you can ask yourself, like, you do the flip around. So then you ask yourself, who would I be without this thought? So that's Byron Katie's inquiry process. And when you can actually detach yourself from the feels, so you take the emotion out of it, who would I be without this thought? I don't know, I would be fine. I would be fine. Okay, then just be fine. You're not attached to an outcome. You're not attached to an apology. You're not attached to somebody saying, you know what, I messed up. Or you know what, whatever. You're not attached to it because you're whole already as is. You know, it's not that you're better or they're better or you're worse or whatever. It's different. Different people, that's fine. And then what I like to do, just to help me process it more and go deeper in healing, is I like to sit in that feeling, that original. So once I've done that, and again, this could take days, it could take weeks, it could take months. I processed a lot of heavy stuff last year. It took me, I'm going to say, a lot of months. Once you process it, you can go back into that feeling and say, okay, I'm going back. Let's say if you're going back into anger, I was really angry this morning. Go back into that anger feeling and then ask yourself, what positive did it teach me? What was the lesson that I learned here? Because then that is your opportunity. That is the key to rewriting this story. So what did this bring me right now? What did I learn? Okay, I got mad. I set my boundaries. I was more clear. That's a positive. So it's just a different way of looking at things. So that is one way that I do it to process anything heavy that I'm going through, and it helps me with the radical responsibility. A second thing that I like to do is I like to practice unconditional positive regard. Now, I've talked about this before. This is basically just giving somebody the benefit of the doubt, because here's the thing. We have no idea what battles other people are fighting on a day-to-day basis. We have no idea. Why? Most of us put up curated stuff on social media, which is fine. And if we're not putting curated stuff and instead we're using social media as a place to do our dirty laundry, then again, that's another narrative that perhaps you might want to look into. So yeah, if you practice the benefit of the doubt, that is basically just saying, you know what, I'm going to give this person the benefit of the doubt because maybe that's their best that they had to give me today. I'm not going to take it personal, even though it was directed towards me. I have this saying that I like to use where it's like hurt people. Because when you're hurting, you want to throw your pain at somebody as if it was a hot potato. And the thing is that you just keep passing that potato around, and then all of us have burning hands. A lot of people, they can't sit in the feels. And this doing radical responsibility changes that. So if you decide, I'm not playing no more, somebody throws you their pain, you don't have to hold on to it. It's actually, if you look at it like a poison, right? Because you can start off your day in a really bad mood and you can poison everybody else around you, honestly. Or you can start off your day in a good mood and you can influence everybody in a good mood as well. So we don't know what kind of mindset, landscape everybody's in that day. We don't know. I just know that how you choose to show up, you can use as a positive to help influence another person, just like it could be destructive. So benefit of the doubt would be an example, and I've talked about this before and I've written about this before. You could be driving. Let's say we live in a small town, but everybody's pretty much been to a city, let's just assume. Driving and somebody cuts you off. Your first instinct might be to beep the horn, give the finger, yell some nasty, obscene words, right? Depending on the type of person you are. And if I were to tell you, well, hey, that person, like if you had background information, hey, that person, they're actually in a hurry to get to the hospital because somebody close to them is dying. You would see that person in a whole different light. So this is what benefit of the doubt is. Benefit of the doubt is tell yourself a story, because we love stories. Tell yourself a story that puts that person in the highest positive regard. So they're being a jerk to you. Put it in your head that, man, how did they end up like that? Create a story in your head that puts them in the positive, and no, this is not about saying you're going to let people walk over you. This is just what you do for yourself so that you don't get poisoned by what they're throwing at you. You're not picking up their hot potato to then pass to the next person. This is how you decide, oh, that's not mine, I'm dropping it. So you can do, I love to play that game in my head all the time. Like, how did I end up like that? How did that person end up? Like, I like to say, like, I am that. So if I'm seeing somebody, acting out in a way that is absurd, violent, like, you know what I mean? In a way that they normally wouldn't act, or somebody that you might not know, you can just tell yourself, like, benefit of the doubt. I wonder how they got like that. I wonder what kind of day they had. What kind of life have they had? It's said that the people who are the hardest, it's because they don't have enough love. And why don't they have enough love? They must have a narrative rooted in unworthiness, and they keep pushing people away just to keep proving to themselves that they're not worthy of love. It's really, really, really sad. Now, I'm not telling you that you should go out and be their best friend, but you can change that interaction with that person just by showing up differently, just by being like, oh, I'm not going to play. It takes two. I'm not going to play. So that's on them. It's not on you. They're throwing their potato at you, but you don't have to play. So drop it. Leave. Set your boundaries. That's okay. And the last thing that I like to do is basically, well, I've actually already talked about it, but basically, how you practice like the common humanity, practice compassion, show up with gratitude. Sure, they might be acting like a jerk towards you. You set your boundaries and you don't have to take any more. Change the subject, right? Walk away. If it's somebody that you don't do business with often, it's fine, And if it's somebody that's close to you, then you might have to get into the messy, but maybe right now wouldn't be the time. And instead, I would go back and do the work on myself, because it's not about changing the other person. It's about how you choose to show up. And when you choose to show up differently, everything around you automatically changes. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Set the tone for how you want other people to treat you. Model it. Respect yourself. Respect other people. I put a post this morning on that about respecting. Set the tone so others know how to treat you. But yet you should always offer respect and kindness towards other people. Nobody should have to earn your respect and kindness. Just be a nice person, right? Always be a nice person. Somebody's not nice to you, smile, walk away. It has nothing to do with you. Take yourself out of their story. Stop climbing in their box is another thing that I use. Oftentimes there's a struggle because we climb into each other's boxes, and there's like a power struggle, but I'll talk about that later on another mindset reset. But if there's questions, I will gladly take them. And if not, make sure to get on my news list, because I'm going to share a little bit more in detail about this radical responsibility, because I lived an experience not long ago, and it's what it is. There's no details because, again, I'm a classy girl. I don't wash my laundry in public. But I'm going to share my own radical responsibility and the process of how I did it. I legit wrote out the words F you. Felt good. But then, of course, that's not something that I typically do. So, but it felt good. I set my boundaries, and that's fine. And it's what it is. I mean, when we start to look at people with compassion and kindness and love, the whole game changes. So it is okay to feel those feels. Actually, I'm going to encourage you, feel the feels, but don't throw it at other people. Get uncomfortable with it yourself because it's yours. Invite those feelings in. Say, yo, I don't like what I'm feeling right now, but what do you want to teach me? And it's a process. A lot of journaling really helps. Get deep, dig deep, because honestly, you are responsible for how things are in your life. I know that sounds really, really hard. I know that some people are living really hard things, and you know what? Like, I'm there with you. I've lived through that as well. But when you choose to show up differently, when you choose to take responsibility, then you get to switch. You get to walk into your story and rewrite it. And isn't that a better way, I think, a more empowered view than just sitting there and being a victim and helpless? So your options are that, victim or warrior. And when I say warrior, again, for the new ones who just joined, you might want to go back and rewatch this whole thing. Warrior not in that you're fighting somebody else. Warrior in that you're walking into your story and you're going to dig deep out of your garbage and figure out what core beliefs do you have? What thoughts are driving you to do this? And lastly, like core beliefs, when I talk about beliefs, a lot of time, like we don't know what our beliefs are. Honestly, we don't, because they're subconscious. And the mind is a really amazing thing. It can't tell the difference between reality and fantasy. So a thought is something that we get throughout the day, many, many times throughout the day. But when it turns into a belief, it's because we've attached an emotional charge to it. So a perfect example to end this topic would be if your core value is respect and you feel like you were disrespected, you're gonna go to war, okay? Because you felt like you were wrong, you felt like you were disrespected. So you have that huge emotional charge based on that core belief, that core value that affects your core belief. And here's the outcome. So when you can sit and do the dirty work and start to unpack, it's a lot of unpacking. It's not fun. But when you can start to unpack the BS around certain things and you're left with what your truth is, then you get to change your game. So that's what it's about. So day 3, radical responsibility. If you're not on my news list, just sign up. The link, it's free. I'm going to talk about radical responsibility tomorrow because I like to share a lot more personal, intimate, shenanigan stuff and things like that. And yeah, so that's all I got for you today. If you haven't seen day 1 or day 2, it's on this page or on my personal page. And if you like anything you see, give me a like. Give me some comments, share any insights. I love this stuff. Like, mindset is huge to me. I love this kind of work. Share with me. Share with somebody else that you think could benefit. And that's all I got. So now I'm going to go and attack my supper. Oh, yes, for sure. So that's all I got. I don't think there's any questions. If you are too shy to share anything here, inbox me. You know where to find me. Peace, love.